The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your host, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
And all three of us are indeed in studio this week, and woof, we got plenty of racing to talk about. We got plenty of racing action on track to talk about from last weekend. It is one whale of a schedule to talk about for this weekend that actually already got started last night. We'll get into that as well. In addition to all that, we got fisticuffs at North Wilkesboro, qualifying and bump day at Indy that we're going to detail. We have silly season rumors blowing up in both Formula One and NASCAR, plus a lot of people that are just, throwing stuff up against the wall to see if it sticks. Stop it! Got a new race shop that opened. We'll talk about that. Got a European drag racer doing the Eddie Murphy Coming to America deal. We got all that, and we got so much more coming up on this weekend show. So get ready, strap in, make sure that you got that cup of coffee or whatever it is that you got in the morning and the biscuit or whatever you want to eat, and we'll get things rolling right after this break.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. We're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back in. Appreciate you joining us. Rain may be involved this weekend. It certainly was last weekend. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers along with you. The whole rain thing. I mean, really, it basically killed all the action in North Wilkesboro except for swimming. And I'm not joking when I say this. It rained 4 inches in about 2 hours.
5.
Okay, 5 inches in 2 hours.
Official number was 5.
And I don't care how good your drainage is, wherever you are, 5 inches in 2 hours will overwhelm your drainage system. And it did at North Wilkesboro, to the point where they could literally swim.
Well, come to find out, there was actually a few bottles that had the drain clogged up.
That's not surprising either.
And once they got the plastic bottles out of the way, they said it drained pretty quick. So pick your trash up, people.
Yeah, would you, please? Anyway, it cut into the end of the All-Star Opening qualifying. Didn't allow everybody who was entered to make a lap, so that and the Truck Series race were moved to Sunday. All-Star Heat races got canceled, so we'll go ahead and move into Sunday action. It began in Italy with Formula One, and shocking, we know. Max Verstappen got on the pole. Just as shocking, Max Verstappen claimed the win. But there was a little bit of drama, which is actually a little shocking. Miami Grand Prix winner Lando Norris was not going to make it easy on Verstappen as started closing in as the laps wound down. He just ran out of laps. When the checkers were shown, an unusual for Formula One gap of 7.725 seconds. That's right, a gap of less than a second between first and second place. We don't see that often in Formula One.
Not especially with Red Bull.
Yeah, no doubt. Usually we see gaps of 20 seconds more than we see a gap of less than 1.
Yeah.
Verstappen wins, Norris second, trailed by Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz making up the top 5. Rest of your top 10, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda in the top 10. Verstappen opening up a 161 to 113 gap on his second place. Now Charles Leclerc. Leclerc vaulted over Sergio Perez for second. Perez sitting at 107, Lando Norris at 101. Then you get Carlos Sainz at 93. You got to drop down to 53 before you get to Oscar Piastri. Got George Russell at 44, outperforming his Mercedes, almost soon-to-be Ferrari teammate, Lewis Hamilton, who's got 35. Fernando Alonso's got 33, and get this, Yuki Tsunoda sitting in the top 10. He's got 15 championship points on the year already. Nice run. It's a kid who, well, he may be fighting for his Formula One career. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. Red Bull's lead over Ferrari in the Constructors' Cup standing 268 to 212. 154 for McLaren, and where has Mercedes gone? Fourth, 79. Ouch. Aston Martin's got 44. VCARB, for those of you that are fairly new to the show, that is Visa Cash App Red Bull RB. They've got 20. Haas F1's got 7. Alpine, they got 1. Williams and Sauber remain pointless on the year. Maybe in more than one way. Then we go back to North Wilkesboro Speedway for the Craftsman Truck Series. While the race was dominated by one driver, that driver, Corey Heim, had to share the headlines with a local hero by the name of Butterbean. Nickname, anyway. Heim didn't miss a beat in the morning session, took the lead on lap 186, led the remainder of the 250-lap race, claimed his third win of the year. Heim beat out Grant Enfinger to the checkered flag. Lane Riggs was in third. Fourth place, Heim's Tricon Garage teammate for one race, Brendan Butterbean Queen. First ever Craftsman Truck Series race, local hero in and around that area, and he got fourth. And that was a popular finish.
That shows you a product of having track time in a late model, what it'll do for you.
There you go. 5th through 10th, featuring Sammy Smith, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, Tyler Ankrum, Daniel Dye, and Stuart Friesen. Heim's 3 wins got him in the playoff 1 seed. We'll deal with the points coming up here in a minute because it did change just a touch from last week to the results from last night at Charlotte. From North Carolina to Indiana, I should say, as the IndyCar Series. IndyCar, whatever. You know, it's the same thing, right? No. IndyCar Series got set to contest the Fast 12, and then Bump Day, and then finally the Fast 6. The big question was going to be, for the Fast 12, was Kyle Larson going to continue to advance? Short answer, yes. He posted the 5th fastest time of the dozen that competed, but it was the Penske trio that set the fastest 3 speeds of the round. The drama of the day was when bump day took center stage because you had 4 drivers sitting on the hot seat trying to get into 3 positions. Musical chairs, right? They all took their first run of the half-hour segment. 2022 Indy 500 winner Marcus Ericsson, feeling some pressure, had a mistake, relegated him to a 4-lap average of just over 220 miles an hour. That was almost 10 miles an hour slower than the next slowest, which was 18-year-old and rookie Nolan Siegel.
Which was almost a critical mistake.
Almost. With less than 5 minutes to go in the session, Ericsson went out for a second try. He was fast enough to put Siegel in the position to have to go out again. He got out in time, but as he took the green flag for his 4-lap run, again, remember, qualifying in Indianapolis is based upon your 4-lap run average. He came off of turn 1 at speed, got loose, couldn't regain control, and crashed in turn 2, ending his last-ditch effort and the rookie's hopes of making his first Indy 500. It officially put the final qualifiers on the last row as Catherine Legg, Marcus Ericsson, and for the second year in a row, scraping into the field, Graham Rahal. I don't know what's going on over there at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing. And here's the thing. I'm not really so certain that it's the team as opposed to the driver.
I'm not. I'm the other way around.
Okay, go for it.
I'm the other way around because how can you have your 4th car, Takuma Sato, be squarely and firmly in the top 12? Your other ones are, I think, was in the low 20s.
Yeah. And
then you've got Graham Rahal is in left field, nearly past the left field foul pole. So
you're laying it on the team?
That's, well, the team is lead strategists and engineers. They basically took the blow for it.
Okay.
I heard them take the blow for it, saying it's not the driver. This is on us. Because
they didn't give him the car. In other words,
it's something dealing with a car because you can't tell me that one of your higher level Honda drivers.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, one of your higher level Honda drivers is hanging on by a thread or a hair just to even make the field for 2 years in a row. And Honda's not that far off on horsepower.
No, they're not, which is why it's surprising to me that it's Graham Rahal for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I mean, because if that hadn't happened to Nolan Siegel was going to be nipping his heels real closely.
Yeah, they weren't that far off. So once we got bump day out of the way and figured that out, the question became on the Fast 6, could Kyle Larson claim the pole? Short answer is no. But I wouldn't go crying for him. He is going to start 5th. As for the 6 drivers that went out in Fast 6, each driver got a little bit faster than one before, turned into a Team Penske front row lockout. Scott McLaughlin puts up 4 laps, all 4 laps over 234 miles an hour. A 4-lap average, 234.220 miles per hour. That is a new Indy 500 qualifying record.
By 3 thousandths of a mile an hour.
That car was cooking and hooked.
Yeah, it was.
Up. Will Power rolls off second, 4-lap average 233.917. Last year's Indy 500 winner Joseph Newgarden filling out the front row, 4-lap average 233.808. Alexander Rossi was 4th fast, then Kyle Larson. Santino Ferrucci put his AJ Foyt Racing entry in the Fast 6 as well. He will roll off 6 tomorrow, assuming Mother Nature lets them. This marks only the second time, by the way, that the team has locked out the front row for the Indy 500, and the team that did it back in 1988, Team Penske. All right, then. That year, it was Rick Mears, Danny Sullivan, and Al Unser. The 4-lap average by McLaughlin, again, the fastest one in Indy 500 history, marks a record-extending 19th pole for Team Penske in the Indy 500. It should be noted that also the top 8 qualifiers, all running Chevrolet engines.
Yep.
Honda better figure it out.
Chevrolet's got the short speed, but does Honda have the long run speed?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yep.
NHRA got into action next near Chicago, home of the Blues Brothers. Look it up, kids. When it came down to the finals in Top Fuel, it pitted Antron Brown against Sean Langdon. Brown was a touch quicker off the light, paid off at the other end. The win with a 3.838 ET, 324.75 miles per hour, gave Brown his 75th win in Mission Foods drag racing action total. Not all of them in Top Fuel. He has run other divisions as well, and he has won in everything that basically he's tried. It was Matt Hagan versus the veteran John Force in the funny car final. Force 0.02 seconds quicker off the light, but the car kind of laid over. Hagan took control. He got the win. 3.998 ET, 323.27 miles per hour. Marks his second win of 2024, 51st of his career. Aaron Stanfield taking on Dallas Glenn in the Pro Stock car finals. The pair almost even off the light. They were basically side by side at the other end as well. Margin of victory, 0.0154. The edge to Dallas Glenn. Ultimately, a 6.567 ET at 208.20 miles per hour. That's his second event win of this year and the 10th of his young career. And I'll give you three guesses as to who made the Pro Stock motorcycle shootout, and the first two don't count.
I'd say the first 2.5 don't count.
To no one's surprise, Pro Stock motorcycle final came down between Gage Herrera, this time against Chase Van Sant, who was last year's NHRA Rookie of the Year for what was then the Camping World Drag Racing Series. Herrera was the person who was off the line quicker. Yeah, I know that shocks everybody too. That was an advantage he kept all the way to the other end. Claims the win with a 6.713 ET at 200.68 miles per hour. That's his third win of 2024. That's his 14th win of his career to date, and his 8th consecutive win. And that's a new record for consecutive national event wins in Pro Stock motorcycle history. Gage Herrera is rewriting the record books in quick fashion.
And then some. But you recognize you didn't hear a name in Top Fuel. Because to me, this would be kind of the equivalent of last year. Let's say last year. If this was to happen last year, this would be the equivalent of Max Verstappen not even posting a qualifying time and not turning one lap in a race.
Okay.
Brittany Force DNQ.
I know.
At Chicago. That was surprising.
Rarity. Very, very rare.
Very surprising.
So your updated standings: Top Fuel, Justin Ashley leads 71 up on Sean Langdon. Doug Coletta 121 back, 111 behind. 121 back as Steve Torrance. Antron Brown sits fifth, 131 out of first. Again, that's Top Fuel. Funny Car, Matt Hagan's win gives him a very slim but a 4-point lead over Austin Prock. He's up 42 on John Force, 53 over J.R. Todd. Bob Tasca, the third, is in fifth, 80 out. Dallas Glenn has a slim 4-point lead in Pro Stock Car over Greg Anderson in his case. Erica Enders, 66 out. 140 down is Jed Coughlin Jr. Aaron Stanfield sits 159 behind. And the undefeated in 2024 Gage Herrera sits 142 points up on Pro Stock Motorcycle. Second place right now, that's Ellie Tonglet. We're 4 races into the Pro Stock Motorcycle year, and it's already a gap of 142.
Yeah.
Matt Smith sits 146 behind. Angie Smith 169 back, and in fifth place in points, John Hall 171 out of first. So that brings us back to North Wilkesboro into the All-Star Open. 3 drivers were going to advance out of the All-Star Open. Now, for those who don't know, the drivers in the Open are the drivers who didn't otherwise qualify for the All-Star race. Call it whatever you want. Last chance qualifier, maybe?
Yep.
The drivers who finish first and second advance on. The third spot goes to the highest vote getter in the fan vote if they already haven't worked their way in. See where I'm going with that? I know it can get confusing. Ty Gibbs has yet to win a points race in his Young Cup Series career, but he's been good, really, ever since he walked into it. Really, at the end of 2022.
Yeah.
He was good at North Wilkesboro, too. Claimed his first Cup Series win overall by getting to the checkers first, beating out Bubba Wallace. Wallace finished second. So that finished that. It was Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace moving on to the All-Star race. Josh Berry was closing in as laps wound down, but he simply ran out of time, so he settled for third, and he started waiting for the voting results. Well, the voting results tossed out both Gibbs and Wallace. They were already in. Now, they were in top 10 in votes, but they got tossed out. Again, they were already moving on. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. As it turns out, Noah Gragson had more votes than anybody else. He makes his second All-Star race in a row. on the fan vote because he turned the same trick last year when he was driving for Legacy MC.
I'm not all that surprised.
No, not really.
I'm really not all that
Noah
surprised.
Gregson's turning into a very popular person with the fans. There's no doubt.
He is, no doubt.
Any chance that he might be able to figure out a way to unseat one Chase Elliott? Probably not. I'm just going to say that right now. Slim, no. Yeah, I got you. Oh, man, when everything was all said and done, we got the All-Star race in, and it was a walk, by the way, for Joey Logano. Joey Logano led 199 of the 200 laps in this money grab. It was really a conversation that we're going to get to once we get into Cup Series news. The biggest drama of the race happened on lap 1 and 2 between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
You probably have heard about it, but we'll talk about it. Yeah. Let's get into stuff that has happened here as the racing for this week has already begun. Craftsman Truck Series running at Charlotte Motor Speedway, contesting the North Carolina Education Lottery 200 as seen on Fox Sports 1, heard on MRN Radio. Matt, quick overview of what happened last night.
Kind of your common lackluster mile-and-a-half race. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Oops.
It was kind of a quiet race, if you ask me, but you had Nick Sanchez taking win number 2 of the year, Stuart Friesen second, Grant Enfinger third, Matt Mills fourth, Ben Rhodes fifth, Jake Garcia sixth, Caden Honeycutt, Connor Mozak, Dean Thompson doing a double yesterday, and Christian Eckes rounding out the top 10.
Now, if you happen to watch this, but you didn't follow up on it, you might have noted that there was a name that actually crossed the finish line inside the top 10, but you didn't name him.
Yeah, he got a little bit of what's called a DNQ.
Oops.
That would be Corey Heim.
Yeah.
Reason why, because when you have television cameras on your final pit stop, you drop said jack, you have your rear tire changer attempting to reconnect lug nuts to get them on there, but you get sent anyway. Yeah, that's going to happen when you only have 2 lug nuts on the rear tire.
Yeah, I was about to say, you did notice that he pluralized lug nuts as trying to attach.
Because he was missing 3.
Yikes.
That is a DNQ.
By Corey Heim, but don't cry for him. He's got 3 wins. He sits on top of the standings. Christian Eckes and Nick Sanchez now holding 2 wins each. Single-time winner Rajah Caruth, they're all locked into the playoffs. In on points, Ty Majeski, Taylor Gray, Tyler Ankrum, Tanner Gray, Grant Enfinger, Ben Rhodes moves up inside the top 10. Stuart Friesen sits in 11th. He's 32 points out of the playoffs at this point in time. We'll see whether things change as we get a little further on. All right, so here's your schedule for this week. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute. We had one more race. And if you were awake at this point in time, you either have insomnia or you're one massive Formula E fan. I don't know which one it is, and I'm going to hold comment. 3 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Central Time this morning. You heard me right. 3 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Central Time, U.S. time this morning. Formula E got into action with the first race of the doubleheader weekend in the Shanghai E-Prix. A 12-turn, 1.9-mile-long version of the Shanghai International Circuit. Quick overview. Pole sitter Jean-Eric Verne, he could not keep the lead long. Third place starter Mitch Evans actually got his Jaguar entry rolling pretty quick. Took the lead on lap 7, and then it kind of turned into a 3-way battle for most of the rest of the race between Evans and the Porsche twins, Pascal Wehrlein, Antonio Felix da Costa. They were battling really until the checkers were shown at the end, although da Costa kind of faded there a little bit with the laps winding down. Evans was your man that was out front when the checkers were shown, claimed his first win in China. Wehrlein was second. Nick Cassidy was able to claim third at the end. Oliver Rowland got by and got to fourth as the fading da Costa ended up fifth. Jake Dennis was sixth. Then Jean-Eric Verne, the pole sitter, could do no better than seventh on the race. Nick DeVries, Mats Gunther, and Sebastian Buemi completed the top 10. And with one more race to deal with this weekend in Formula E, we'll talk standings in Formula E next weekend. So what about the rest of the weekend, you ask? Hey, I'm glad you asked, because we know. Starts later today, Mother Nature permitting. Xfinity Series gets in the BetMGM 300 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. That'll be a Fox situation, not Fox Sports 1, and PRN Radio, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time. And then tomorrow, the greatest day in racing, as we like to call it. And it'll be a busy one.
It will.
It'll kick off in China. Second race of Formula E in the doubleheader weekend at Shanghai. Same course, kicks off at 3 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Central Time. And I looked. God only knows when or where you can watch this thing. Because I checked everything I could find on the CBS Sports Network and CBS Sports lineup for the main network. I got nothing. I got a whole lot of zip. So good luck if you really want to find it. Let's see. Where else are we going? How about let's talk about the greatest day in racing really in earnest kicking off in Monaco. F1, Formula One, getting the crown jewel of the Monaco Grand Prix in on that incredibly tight 19-turn, 2.1 mile long Circuit de Monaco. Airs on ESPN, not ABC. That's a missed opportunity. 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. They might, as they have in the past, do a replay after the Indy 500 ends and before the Coca-Cola 600 begins on ABC. I haven't looked. You want to know why? My wife and I cut our cable finally. So I couldn't.
For the Formula E, all race sessions will be shown live on Roku. Highlights will be shown on CBS Sports Network.
Good job. Way to pay for that
Yeah.
rights to that there, guys.
Yeah.
After Formula One, things turn to NBC or the IRN radio network, depending on which way you prefer. It's the 108th running of the Indy 500. They're going to get things rolling 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. And then, of course, you've got the Cup Series finishing things off at the Coca-Cola 600, longest race of the year. PRN Radio and Fox. It'll get underway at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central Time and go into the nighttime. Of all the series that we cover on a regular basis, the only series that is scheduled this as an off week is the National Hot Rod Association.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Pull the straps down real tight. You got a busy weekend of racing coming up.
Yep.
Well, we got our podcast in a day late, as it turned out. We'll detail that when we come back. And we detailed this whole fisticuff thing. But you know what? Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
We'll be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
The green flag is waving. There's Coca-Cola.
2 tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome into it. Welcome back to it, I guess we should say. I'm Steve West along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers. We're all in studio, and we did kind of detail this a little bit more in our podcast. And yeah, it dropped a day later than usual due to restrictions from a hospital visit by me. I still have the markings of it. Yeah, I'm all right. Don't worry about it. But for those who haven't checked it out,
easy way to put it.
Yeah, I'm dealing. I'll probably have to go back in to get plumbing checked out.
Way to play it down, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's not why we're here. We're not here to talk about my hospital visits. But anyway, if you haven't checked it out yet, we'll restate probably what you already know if you are a fan of NASCAR in any way, shape, or form. After the All-Star race last Sunday evening, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was standing at Kyle Busch's hauler. He was waiting for him. He confronted him in the end, punched him. NASCAR didn't take too kindly to it. Apparently, somewhere down the line, NASCAR forgot about their boys have at it standard. They fined Stenhouse $75,000 for the punch. NASCAR hasn't released a statement as to why they fined Stenhouse. For example, they didn't fine Ross Chastain last year when he punched Noah Gragson. I really don't know. You'll see a picture of it here in a moment. Kind of a neat still shot of it. Thanks to Bob Pockris from Fox Sports 1, by the way, on this. Because he and his camera people were in the perfect spot, knowing that this was coming. How did they know it was coming if you were not watching the race or missed some of the subplot here? This was a situation that developed as they dropped the green flag on the 200-lap event. Mm-hmm. Kyle Busch started to kind of drift to the outside a little bit. He left a lane open. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. took advantage of it and split the difference in between Kyle Busch and I don't even know who was on the low side. I'll be real honest with you.
I think it may have been Ty Gibbs.
Maybe. But either way, Stenhouse saw the opening. You're at the beginning of the run. It's short track racing, especially this year and especially in this Gen 7 car. You know you got to grab all the opportunities you can grab when you can, because otherwise you're going to end up doing what Joey Logano did, which is check out on the field and lead 199 of 200 laps.
Correct.
Video shows Stenhouse didn't touch Kyle Busch, but Kyle Busch hit the wall and he blamed Ricky Stenhouse for it. It was what, lap and a half later?
No, it was a lap later.
Lap later. One lap later.
Yep.
Kyle Busch was able to get a run, tapped the back of Ricky Stenhouse Jr., got him loose, tapped the back of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. again, shot him into the wall, and that was the end of that. Well, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. goes, and obviously he gets checked out of the infield care center after having brought his car down pit road and parking it not in his own pit stall, not taking it to the garage. He parked it in Kyle Busch's pit stall. Said afterward he felt like that was what Kyle Busch probably would have done in the opposite situation.
And he's not wrong.
And he's not wrong. You're right. So he
and
goes.
That may have been a $75,000 fine, that not let alone the hit.
Don't know.
No.
Don't know.
You don't fine people $75,000 for parking your car in a pit box.
No, even if it's not yours. Goes to the infield care center, comes out, talks about the fact that he'll probably be waiting for Kyle Busch when Kyle Busch gets done, because North Wilkesboro Speedway is an old school track. It has no tunnel. You can't get out of the infield. If you're in the infield, you're there until whatever event's going on, in this case the All-Star race, is done. So that means that for effectively 198 laps, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got to sit in the infield watching the All-Star race go on without him and stew.
To which on Tuesday, Elton Sawyer, and I said this on the podcast Wednesday, for the love of humanity, somebody get him out of in front of a microphone and out in front of a camera or off the phone from SiriusXM, because he says the hypothetically dumbest, you fill in the blank of word you want to use for it, that I've ever heard in my life. Well, if you sit and have to think on it for 198 laps and you act, we're going to act. Okay. Go back and listen to audio. Go back and watch video. Ricky Stenhouse says clearly, and I quote, "If I could have gotten out of the track, I would have been home by now."
Yeah. He would have left if he could have.
So, but yet.
And Elton Sawyer, being a former driver himself, he ought to know a little bit about the chance to sit and stew.
He knows better. He knows better. So, if you're going to use this, publicize this, blast it all over your social media platforms to the end of time, but you want to turn around and fine him for doing so in an exhibition race. If I'm Ricky Stenhouse, I'm charging royalties for every time that video plays somewhere, and they're paying my fine.
Uh-huh. And I'd be charging NASCAR for it, because I can guarantee you this. Even though it is Fox and or NBC that will be doing this, if I find that NASCAR has their fingerprints over a time where they are using that fight to promote the drama, I'm charging NASCAR.
Yeah, and then, suspending his dad indefinitely when his dad was swung on first.
Yeah. NASCAR suspended Stenhouse's father. His father did jump into the fracas as well, said that his suspension, Stenhouse's father's suspension, is indefinite. They have also suspended 2 others. Clint Myrick, a mechanic on the Stenhouse ride, got suspended for 8 races. Stenhouse's engine tuner, Keith Matthews, has to sit out the next 4.
Supposedly, Clint Myrick, the mechanic, was trying to separate the fight, and he had his hands on an official. So that's why the 8-race suspension was. Okay, whatever with that.
I think you could appeal that and get it knocked down.
You probably could appeal it and get it down to maybe 2. Okay. Secondly, back to touch on what I was saying. You suspend Stenhouse's dad indefinitely when he was swung on first by Kyle. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Okay. But, and I forgot where I seen this, the reason for most of these penalties and a lot of these fines and penalties and everything was because of some media members were in danger and they were in the middle of it. Here's a solution. Here's a solution. Here's a solution. Now, I did see this. Here's a solution. Jordan Bianchi. I'm going to get on a roll about him in a little bit, just foreshadowing.
We're both going.
Jordan.
Bob Pockris was
I'm
there.
throw Bob in this.
Yeah, Bob Pockris was
Davey
there.
Siegel.
Yeah.
Alex Weaver. All these other media members that just ran down to the back of the lift gate to try to get in the middle of this. Here's a solution. When you know that 2 drivers are going to be talking nose to nose, face to face, however you want to say it, stay the heck out of the way. Let them handle it. Because odds are, at a short track, something's going to fly. Whether it be a body part being a fist,
sure,
a jack handle, a hammer, or something else, something's going to fly. I've seen it.
But here's the other side of it. And all of these people that you're talking about, all the ones that you named, they're all veterans.
Oh, yeah.
They've been around. Bob Pockris has been around in the infield of these racetracks for what, 25, 30 years now?
At least.
Jordan Bianchi, decade or so.
Get him out of the garage.
Okay. Davey Siegel does some work for Sirius XM Satellite Radio, amongst other things. Been around it for a while. That's their job. They go to where the story is. They take their job seriously enough to understand we need to go to where the story is. And that means you are putting yourself potentially in line for having something happen to you. They knew it, and they went. And there isn't any one of those people, whoever they are, and for whatever company they work for, that would sit here and tell you this morning that they feel like they made a mistake going down there to cover that. They'd all tell you it was their job. They willingly went there.
Yeah, they willingly went there. But,
it's not finable.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look up and when you see some of these let's just say some of these protests and everything that you see, or something that you see on these college campuses, and I'm not turning this political, but I'm using this as an example. And you look up and you see people like this right here. You're putting yourself in the line of fire. Stay back, way off the lift gate, maybe way back here. Whole different story, but not when you're literally standing on the lift gate surrounding the circle. Yeah.
Yep.
I've got a problem with that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But there it is. It also should be noted, one little sub-note on this. Stenhouse did threaten to wreck Busch in retaliation in tomorrow's Coca-Cola 600. I love this response from Busch. Quote, "Bring it. I suck as bad as you." Okay. Stenhouse was walking away at that point in time anyway. It did catch the attention, by the way, of Busch's car owner, Richard Childress, who told media that if Stenhouse does indeed wreck the 8 car, that he would fight Stenhouse himself. Richard, don't. I'm here to tell you, you need to take another look at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He may be short, but the kid's stocky, and he'll take you down. He'll take you out. Don't do it. I get it. You'd be upset. I get it. And here's the thing. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s now had the chance to calm down. And he probably would not do it anyway. It sounds good at the moment. In the heat of the moment, you say stuff like that. He's not going to wreck Kyle Busch tomorrow night.
No.
But you watch. Once this Coca-Cola 600 gets in, be it tomorrow night or Monday or whenever it actually finally does get in, I can guarantee you will see the 47 and the 8 close to each other the vast majority of the race, because somehow, some way, in this way that the world works, that always seems to happen.
It does. It does.
All right. We'll get into it in a little bit more detail in IndyCar news in a moment, but let's assume for a moment that Kyle Larson's attempt at the double runs into some delay troubles in Indianapolis. For whatever reason. Doesn't matter. NASCAR has said that within reason, 2 key words, within reason, they'll be willing to delay the beginning of the Coca-Cola 600 to allow Larson to get in, get strapped in, and get rolling as the green flag flies. Elton Sawyer, as noted, was on Sirius XM satellite radio this week. He told them, quote, "We're going to work closely with the folks at Speedway Motorsports, our television partners, the folks at Hendrick Motorsports, to do everything that we can to make sure that Kyle can get there within reason. We've got some minute-by-minute schedules, and when we do our command and the green flag, we're going to work closely together to make sure our fans get to see one of the best drivers ever in our sport be able to participate in our Coke 600 on Sunday night." Now, we do know about this, because we have those minute-by-minute and, truth be told, second-by-second schedules up there in the PA Tower at places like Talladega and Darlington and the other places that we've been able to go to. But there is some leeway. And for Fox Sports, they understand that their television ratings are made better by the people that are going to be coming in to check out whether or not Kyle Larson's able to, number one, make it, and how good he's going to do, secondly.
Correct.
So Fox Sports will be more than happy to work with NASCAR on this. So now we just got to figure out whether Mother Nature will cooperate, because that is the big key. Right now, not really looking all that great.
Well, I'm snooping and looking right here. It's trending.
Is it getting better?
Better for Indianapolis.
Good. Let's
Trending
hope that,
better.
let's hope that continues on. Have you heard about Team Amerivet? No. Yeah, probably not. But you do know the team. It's not a new team, actually. It is a rebranding. This is the team that used to be called the Money Team. Uh-huh. The company, Amerivet Securities, has come on board. They're now not only the primary sponsor, but basically the title sponsor, if you will, of the number 50 Chevrolet. This is all part of the new ownership group by the part-time team, which is led by a retired Marine by the name of Mercedes Elias, along with Amerivet Securities co-CEO Michael Nadrick and former Money Team co-owner William Auchmuty, along with his wife Rebecca. The Money Team, you might remember, was started by the Auchmutys and former professional boxer Floyd Mayweather. Yeah, Floyd Mayweather is no longer listed on the ownership in any way, shape, or form.
Color me shocked.
And that is how they're going to look the next time they hit the track.
Which will be tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. It's not a bad-looking car, by the way. You're going to see a lot of these patriotic paint schemes. I would think, though, that considering who they are and what they stand for, that's probably not a one-off. That's probably pretty close to what they're going to look like as a general rule.
Yeah, more than likely, but I
If you're looking, by the way, on CRN Live on YouTube.
think I would put somebody else other than Ty Dillon in the car. Anyways.
That smacks a kind of desperation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it does. It just does. But was it Ty that was in the 50 car trying to attempt for the Daytona 500?
That'd be Kaz Gralla.
That was Kaz Gralla. Okay. Maybe
Kaz Gralla
maybe
did
Kaz wasn't available. I don't know.
Kaz Gralla did it the first year. Yeah, Kaz Gralla's in the 15 car.
Yeah.
And then Connor Daly did it last year.
Yeah. Well, good luck. It's Ty Dillon. NASCAR's latest shop is now open. 2311 Racing's new airspeed is actually up, open, and operating. 114,000 square foot facility right off of the interstate. I think you said it was 77?
Yes.
Okay.
77 Huntersville.
And according to team owners Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, based off a hand sketch worked up by Hamlin. And then they took other inspiration from things like, the Mercedes Formula One building. You can kind of get a quick look at it from the outside. They put in a whole lot of lighting, a whole lot of windows there. And they all have a slant to them. 23 degrees, in case you're curious. Took inspiration from the best and the worst of other shops because Hamlin and all the workers with 2311 said that they asked other team employees what they liked and what they didn't about the shops they were in. And Hamlin says that it's also very fan-friendly because he wanted the fans to see just about everything that they possibly could on all that happens inside a race shop. So they get up on the second floor doing a tour, and it overlooks the shop, and they can look into literally every room and every area of this facility.
I've seen still images of it. And
I have too.
It's sharp.
Yeah,
it's sharp.
it is.
And then
They built themselves a nice place. There's
next
no doubt.
time I go to the Carolinas, I'm definitely going to pop in and check it out.
It'd definitely be worth it. Then there's the Athletic.
Hey, here we go.
When we say the Athletic, who do we really mean?
Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck. I hate to say this, but Jeff Gluck is getting just as bad as Jordan Bianchi.
Yeah. I'm going to lay a lot of this, I'll tell you right now, at the feet of Jordan Bianchi.
Because
Because Jeff Gluck's been in this long enough to know, don't trade on hearsay and rumors.
Yeah, because Jordan has developed a trend of where he's got to be the first one. Sources say this, sources say that, and then he gets his lady undergarments in a wad when people call him out. Why can't you let them break it first? Let them break their own news first. And Jordan's the one that takes the heat and gets absolutely ran in circles around, which is rightfully so.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of times he's been wrong.
And we'll detail what it is that he's claiming, but I guess we got to take a break there, Producer John. We've all been talking about it ever since the word broke and kind of surprised us that it appears Stewart Haas Racing is thinking about selling a charter, multiple charters, maybe the whole kit and caboodle. Huh? Yeah, that's where it's going, at least according to The Athletic. We'll dive into their rumors. Not getting any comments, I'm just saying, but we'll dive into the rumors when we come back.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, and this whole SHR thing has taken on a whole life of its own. All right, The Athletic this week, putting out a report, claims Tony and Gene Haas have at least been thinking about selling off anywhere from 1 to all 4 of their charters and have been considering either selling or leasing the shop Stewart-Haas Racing is currently sitting in. Okay. I mean, with all the things that we have heard and all the things that we have seen, let's take this at face value, right? With all the things that we've heard and all the things that we've seen, Tony has been, we'll just say, frustrated with NASCAR.
For years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Maybe so. Gene Haas was an owner in NASCAR long before Tony Stewart ever came on board as a co-owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% certain I believe that
right
aspect of it.
Yeah.
But maybe he wants to turn all of his attention to F1. I don't know. Here's the thing. Whether it's The Athletic, ESPN.com, Fox Sports, NBC Sports, or whatever, there's a common thread running through all of this. Tony hasn't talked. Gene hasn't commented. And nobody at SHR is commenting. But we got all these stories running wild. Think about that for a moment.
According to sources within the sport. If you got all your sources that know all this, name them.
Yeah.
Name them.
I dare you.
Call them out.
Front Row Motorsports, the report from The Athletic continues on, says, could be interested in at least one of the charters. Front Row Motorsports general manager Jerry Freese reportedly told The Athletic this. This is at least a known source, right? That team owner Bob Jenkins of Front Row Motorsports is looking into becoming a 3-car outfit on a full-time basis. The shop situation is less settled. Obviously, we don't know what's going on over there when it comes to Stewart-Haas Racing because, as I mentioned just a moment ago, Tony hasn't commented, Gene hasn't commented, and nobody from SHR is either. Interest in charters is well known. They note, as we have, 2311, Trackhouse, Legacy MC. I find it interesting that nobody beforehand, until we talked about it right here on this show, was talking about this other team. Now, all of a sudden, guess who's listed as a potential interested charter buyer? Richard Childress Racing.
You know what that tells me?
Thank you for listening.
Exactly.
Let me repeat this.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Let me repeat this. Stewart-Haas Racing has been very quiet about this situation. Very quiet. Up to and including the point where last weekend at North Wilkesboro Speedway for the All-Star Race weekend, Stewart-Haas Racing's chief operating officer, Joe Custer, yes, he's Cole Custer's father, was asked about it point blank and politely declined any comment on it, reinforcing the fact that nobody from Stewart-Haas Racing is saying anything right now. You can take silence as however you want. Read into it whatever you will, but they are not commenting.
I don't know what to make about this, honestly. I don't know how you can make anything out of this. Because who's arguably been the most notorious team for staying the quietest
About everything.
And then, oh, where did that come from? That would be Stuart Haas.
Oh, yeah. We reference you back to when they switched from Chevrolet to Ford. Nobody saw that coming.
That too. But it is going to be, and if this does happen, I am going to have a godforsaken field day and a half on the airwaves that our platforms go across. If Tony comes out and says, what are y'all talking about? We ain't going nowhere.
I'm going to sit back and laugh.
I'm going to kick my feet up and go.
Because here's the thing, you can say whatever you want about it. Yeah, they're in a slump. There's no doubt about it. They didn't win a race last year. There's no doubt about it. And they've gone through massive changes from last year into this year, including changing the look of the logos and the interior of the shop. I mean, they went through the process of basically trying to reset Stuart Haas Racing. You could call it one of two things: last-ditch effort to try and change things, or, hey, this is the first move in a long-term resetting of what we do. We don't know. Again, we're not on the inside.
And
that's just two sides of one coin of taking and changing the logo, taking and remaking the face of the team where you have two new drivers in there.
Here's another aspect of this too. And this is the most logical, common sense, something that's long gone out of this world, way of looking at it. Stuff like this doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It doesn't happen overnight. So if this has been even remotely thought about for any inkling of time, let's just say start of the season, why would Josh Berry and Noah Gragson take that huge of a leap of faith and sign with a team that may not exist, that may, in huge capital letters, may not exist or cease to exist?
Yeah.
Why would they do that? You don't just do that. If I've been catching wind, let's just say that. If I've been catching wind, Myers Motorsports over here calls me, hey, you're doing really good in the Xfinity cars this year. Nice job getting 9 wins. Missed the championship barely, but hey, still a heck of a season. My 10 car's open next year. What's your interest in that? Are you guys, I keep hearing you guys maybe not exist after this next year. That's Bravo Sierra. People are taking something and running with it, but no, we have full plans to exist beyond to next season. Do you want to drive my car? Well, if you're going to be around, sure, I'll drive it. Where's the pen? Where's the paper? Pen to paper. Let's go.
Now, on the other hand, if Myers Motorsports says, well, yeah, we've been thinking about it, but we haven't made a decision. What if they said we haven't made a decision yet?
We haven't made a decision. If we haven't made a decision yet, let me do some consideration on that, because if you hadn't made a decision yet, and I'm going to leave my Xfinity car to where I'm cleaning house every year and step up to your car to where I may have to revamp my entire career after 1 year, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I want to make that move. I think I may stay right where I'm at.
We'll see.
I don't
know. Would it be sad for me as a fan, a long-term fan of Tony Stewart's, to see him outside of NASCAR, not in NASCAR anymore? Yeah, it would. But you think about everything that he's got his hands in. He's got a lot of balls that are sitting up in the air that he's trying to juggle all at the same time. I understand that. But Tony is also a racer's racer. He loves it.
If it's got 4 wheels and an engine and a steering wheel, he's going to go after it.
Absolutely. He loves it. He really does. He has an absolute passion for it. I'm still going on the idea that I would be fairly shocked, even with all the rumors that we have heard, seen, and dealt with since the beginning of this year, I would be shocked if Stewart-Haas Racing ceases to exist. It might change from what we currently see, but as far as like selling off everything and getting the heck out of the sport entirely, yeah, I'm sorry. I color me shocked if it actually happens.
Doubt that's going to happen, because anybody that's had their 2 feet on that facility that turns on the 6001 Gene Haas Way, sad I know that address, in Kannapolis, North Carolina. When you cross over that little hill and you see those 2 astronomically large buildings, and one's got a Haas F1 team and one's got Stewart-Haas Racing, you go, oh, dear God.
Yeah.
What is this?
They're there for the long term, or at least it looks that way.
You don't build buildings that large to just go, 10 years later, we're done.
Yeah. I don't feel like doing it anymore.
Give me a break.
Then the Athletic turned around and did this. This came out late last night / early this morning. I don't know where they got this, but we'll go ahead and throw it out there for you just to let you know.
Oh, by all means, go ahead.
Athletic reports that a provision in the new charter agreement proposal, remember, this hasn't even been voted on yet, would limit teams in the Cup Series to 3 charters. With those teams currently sitting at 4, they note Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing would be grandfathered in to keep their 4. 2 problems with this. Number 1, you note the team that they didn't mention that has 4 charters? The one that we just have been talking about? Mm-hmm. It's like the Athletic has already said, yep, they're done. They're selling off at least 1 charter. So we didn't even include them in this as being grandfathered in. But here's the deal. Stewart-Haas Racing, at this point in time, still has 4 charters. So at this point in time, they would still be grandfathered in according to the rules, assuming that they are correct. The other part of this is that NASCAR hasn't said one word.
As the old saying goes, this will be a great segue getting ready to go into our top of the hour break. As the old saying goes, if Sir Anthony Wayne Stewart always says, if it doesn't come out of my mouth, don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Have we heard anything come out of his mouth yet?
Nope.
Negative.
Have we heard anything come out of NASCAR other than the fact that they are working on finalizing the charter agreement and that they're closer than ever before to being able to work with the teams to put it together and put ink to paper to make it happen?
Somebody, please. For 2025, please let him be in charge of the communications department of NASCAR and how hard cards get issued for media, because I'm cleaning the media room out. I'm cleaning them out. There may be 5 people that sit in the media room on a weekly basis in the media center.
Bob Pockers was one of them.
Bob would be one of them.
And if Adam Stern wanted one, I'd give it to him.
Adam would be the second one. Chris Knight would be the third one, because Chris Knight.
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Chris Knight, he keeps his feet on the ground and he doesn't throw stuff up against the wall and hope it sticks. I would say Claire Lang would be the 4th.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame we don't hear that much from her anymore.
Exactly. And the 5th one would be to be determined.
I see where you're going with that. We've got a whole lot of people out there that are trying to, and we're one of those. Don't get us wrong. We understand that we are one of those that is trying to make their way and carve their little niche into the world of race-related broadcasting. Racing-related broadcasting, not race-related. Good grief. 2 totally different things. So we understand it. We're trying to make our way in here. But I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face, and truth be told, I'm going to say it until both John and Matt are blue in the face. I would rather be last on a story and get it right than be first on a story and be so wrong that it would cut our credibility and we'd have to apologize.
Bingo.
Because the last thing that I want to do for the listeners that are listening to the flagship station and or their app, or those that are checking us out on CRN Live on YouTube, or checking out our podcast, Cross Flags, whatever it is, however it is that you're checking us out, I want you guys to be able to come to us hear what we have to say, listen to what we have to say, because there is actually a difference, and I'll get into that if you want. To be able to listen to what we have to say and understand that that is, to the best of our knowledge, the facts to that point. If we have rumors or supposition, we state that ahead of time. If it's something that we think on this show might happen because we started to connect dots, but we have no other proof otherwise, we'll tell you up front with a disclaimer. We don't have any proof of this. This is a rumor, or this is our way of thinking that it's going to happen. And we'll tell you that up front. Otherwise, what we want to do is limit the amount of mistakes on this show, because we want to be the show that you guys can come to and understand we're bringing you the facts. That's it.
To borrow the line from the late Ray Combs that hosted Family Feud, survey says, ding.
Ladies and gentlemen, got a good one for you tonight. Thank you, Steve Harvey. We'll continue on with a good one this morning. 3 new members officially inducted into NASCAR's Hall of Fame. Who are they? Well, we'll tell you about it when we come back.
Questions.
We got IndyCar news and Formula One stuff as well. Stick around. Hour 2's next.
Don't touch that dial. The Championship Racing Network will be right back. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. Appreciate you sticking around with us. I'm Steve West, along with Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers, along with you. Hour number 2 underway here. Just got done with a whole lot of fun in hour number 1. All right, ready for debate number 2? No, 3. Sorry.
Why not?
3 new members that we'll go ahead and say it. 4 new members of the NASCAR Hall of Fame will be inducted next February. You've got the modern day, you've got the legends, legacy, if you will, and then you've got the Landmark Award winner. That's where we get the 4. Next February, Ricky Rudd, Carl Edwards, and Ralph Moody are going in, and your Landmark Award winner is Dr. Dean Sicking. We'll get to the debate in a minute. Ricky Rudd was actually doing yard work when he got a text and then a phone call from Mike Joy telling him to head down to Charlotte, about a 20-minute drive from his house. Said that's how he knew that after 8 years of being on the ballot that he was getting into the Hall. His resume shows 23 wins, 29 poles in Cup Series action over a 32-year racing career. And it was he was the guy that was actually the Iron Man with the most consecutive starts in the Cup Series at 788 until Jeff Gordon broke that back in 2015. Then there's Carl Edwards. 28 Cup Series wins, 72 wins over NASCAR's top 3 series. He won the 2007 Xfinity Series title. Big wins include Coca-Cola 600 Southern 500. That was both in 2015. He was also second in the closest title finish in Cup Series title history, losing out to Tony Stewart on a tiebreaker in 2011. Then there's Ralph Moody, who was a tank driver under General George Patton in World War II, came back home, got into racing, went from driver to well-known owner when he paired up with businessman John Holman, formed the groundbreaking Holman-Moody team in 1957. From then to 1973, won 2 what we would now call Cup Series titles with David Pearson, both of those, 1968 and 1969. Also won the 1967 Daytona 500 with a guy you might have heard of, Mario Andretti. Also having some of the biggest names racing and winning for them, names like Bobby Allison, Fireball Roberts, Joe Weatherly, Fred Lorenzen. Then there's the Landmark Award winner, and that is, as I mentioned, Dr. Dean Sicking. He gets in on his first year on the ballot. Sicking, as we talked about when we talked about those who were nominated newly for this year's ballot, is the guy credited with creating the safer barrier that is in use at all the NASCAR oval tracks and really just about every track in NASCAR now after the death of Dale Earnhardt back in 2001. Sicking was recognized in 2003 for that contribution. He was named the Bill France Award of Excellence winner for that year, and in 2005 was actually honored by President George W. Bush with the National Medal of Technology and Innovation, which is something I didn't even know existed. But here's the deal. I don't have any problem with Dr. Dean Sicking.
No.
Skates in. Surprised it took this long, truth be told. On his first year with some of the others, yeah, you could certainly make the argument that maybe somebody else should have gotten in before him because they've been on the ballot longer. But the truth of the matter is, bottom line, I can't argue Dr. Dean Sicking's contribution to NASCAR allowing him to be in there. So, zero problem there.
Nope.
Zero problem with Ralph Moody. Kind of like Dr. Dean Sicking, surprised it took this long because of the contributions that he and, as we mentioned, John Holman made and were able to do in their time. So, yeah, zero problem there.
Yep. No, out of the 5 that were on it this year, he was number 1 for me.
Yeah. Carl Edwards and Ricky Rudd.
I have a problem. I have a big problem.
Matt has the floor.
Now, I'm going to read off everybody that was on the modern era ballot for this year. Greg Biffle, Neil Bonnet, Tim Brewer, Jeff Burton. Why, I don't know. Randy Dorton, Carl Edwards, Harry Gant, Harry Hyde, Ricky Rudd, Jack Sprague. The listed credentials for Rudd, which was the highest percentage vote getter at 83%.
3? Okay, 83.
Greg Biffle's credentials. I'm going to start at the top. 2000 Craftsman Truck Series champion, 2002 Xfinity Series champion. Neil Bonnet.
2 titles.
Neil Bonnet, 18 victories in Cup with consecutive Coca-Cola 600 victories.
Okay. So that's comparable, I would say, to Ricky Rudd.
Tim Brewer, 2-time Cup Series champion crew chief.
2 titles.
Jeff Burton, 21 Cup Series wins, including the Southern 500 and 2 Coke 600s.
Okay, comparable to Ricky Rudd.
Randy Dorton, Hendrick Motorsports engine builder that accumulated 9 championships across the National Series.
Repeat that number again.
9.
Thank you.
Carl Edwards, 28 Cup Series wins, in 2007, the Xfinity Series champion.
Title.
Harry Gant, winner of 18 Cup Series races and 2 Southern 500 victories.
And one of the very few people on the planet who has won 4 races in a row.
Swept the month of September.
Bingo.
Harry Hyde, 1970 Cup Series championship crew chief. Ricky Rudd, 23 Cup Series wins, the 97 Brickyard 400 being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Sprague, 3-time Craftsman Truck Series champion.
And arguably one of the founders when it comes to being the drivers of the truck series. Yeah.
All right. If Ron Hornaday is in being a 4-time Craftsman Truck Series champion, automatically that gives grounds for Jack Sprague to have a clear path to get in.
Yep.
They have 7 championships between the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How do you put in somebody that has just won 23 Cup Series races? I'm by no means am I discrediting the career of Ricky Rudd. Let me be vocally clear on that. I'm not discrediting anybody's career that they've had. But when you have other individuals on the ballot that have stronger credentials than the ones that got in, I've got a problem.
Mm-hmm. This is a popularity contest.
It's a popularity contest. And I'm going to say it like this. This may come across wrong, but I'm going to say it like this. The nominating committee that needs to be putting people in the Hall of Fame does not need to have the first media member on it. It needs to be former competitors that are already in or already have a championship caliber credential list that have the ability to like, hey, he's deserving. I don't know yet. He's a little bit more deserving than him. Or if you follow what I'm saying here.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it comes down to media members, on there, as he just said, it's a popularity contest. Yeah. Unfortunately.
And the other unfortunate part of it is the fact that when you get some of these media members that somehow got the ability to do it, I'm not throwing people like Dave Moody under the bus. I understand Dave Moody's place.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the aforementioned people like a Jordan Bianchi. Well, I don't know whether he's on that board, but it doesn't matter. It's people like him. And what do they suffer from? Short memory syndrome. And they're all paying attention to the Cup Series more than they're paying attention to the Xfinity, Truck Series, Arca Menard Series, Whelen Modified Tour. They are paying more attention to the people that are behind the wheel than the people that made the cars that went out and won titles. How can you tell me that Ricky Rudd is more deserving than a guy who defined championship engine building? Dale Inman's in, and deservedly so.
Chad Knaus is in.
Deservedly so. But we got a guy out here who's built engines for 9 title winners who's still sitting on the outside looking in?
Here's my trump card I'm about to throw down in this game of Rook. Maurice Petty. What did Maurice Petty do? He built engines for Petty Enterprises.
Yeah. Won a few titles.
He's in. Quite a few. He's in.
Yeah.
I'm going to just point blank say it out here. My 3 votes would have went to, my top 3 would have been, in no particular order, Greg Biffle, Randy Dorton, Jack Sprague.
I can see that.
Biffle's got 2 championships in the top 3 divisions. Pretty solid.
Yeah.
Jack Sprague, 3-time Truck Series champion. Ron Holiday's in. That's a clear path for Sprague.
I would agree.
And 9 championships for Randy Dorton in the engine builder. If Maurice Petty's in, he's in too.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's going to end up being to where somebody, and I'm just going to say, somebody probably the likes of Harry Hyde will probably be left out in the same fashion that Smokey Unick's been left out.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, at this point in time right now, unless they just come up with some slam dunk replacement for Ralph Moody here, my fan vote from this point in time on, until such a time as they ever wake up and put us on the actual Hall of Fame voting panel, my vote will go to Smokey Unick.
Agreed. I agree. Probably, I would say the next one that may go in or could go in off the Pioneer that really should go in is, I'm going to say, Banjo Matthews.
Yeah. Between him and Smokey Unick. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see the 5 on the Pioneer ballot this year was Ray Hedrick, Banjo Matthews, Ralph Moody, Larry Phillips, and Bob Wilburn.
Yeah.
And Ralph Moody, it should have done been in.
Oh, yeah.
If you ask me.
Yeah. Ralph Moody was overdue. He was. I have zero argument with him going in at all. By the way, we won't know about the Squire Hall Award media winner until much closer to the actual induction ceremony.
Something's got to change.
We'll see. This past week, Sports Business Journal handed out their 2023 awards for sports. The first ever NASCAR street race, the Chicago street race, took the honor as the event of the year. Get that. Beat out a pretty stout number of events, by the way, because this is all of sports. They bested Formula One's Las Vegas Grand Prix, which was quite the spectacle. They bested the NHL Stadium Series, which is where they play outdoors in baseball and football stadiums. They bested the Super Bowl. They beat out the U.S. Open Tennis Tournament, and they beat out the World Baseball Classic, too. As it turned out, NASCAR was also up for 2 other awards. They were up for League of the Year and Deal of the Year. They lost both of those. NASCAR lost out to Major League Baseball for their changes to make the game quicker when it came to League of the Year. Okay. And Lionel Messi's contract to come to the United States and play for Inter Miami and Major League Soccer was the Deal of the Year. Sure. Whatever.
How you can tell me that Chicago beat out Las Vegas is beyond me. And
yeah, I know.
Because of the weather, darkness.
They did everything they could to get that thing in there. There's no doubt about it.
But you can't say that it was nothing short of a debacle for year one.
In a lot of ways. So, but they're going to do it again this year, and we'll see. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s Dirty Mo Media podcast platform continues to grow. The latest deal is with SiriusXM satellite radio that allows for some crossover and programming availability, but for the most part, it'll be Dirty Mo Media giving programming to SiriusXM's NASCAR channel. Shows like the Dale Jr. Download will begin to air on the NASCAR channel reportedly twice a week, and that's set to start early next month. The two sides are also set to collaborate on special event broadcasts. They'll be doing special event broadcasting such as at next year's Daytona 500 and a bunch of other big races throughout the course of the year. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go ahead and take a break. John, when we come back, we will start to talk about we pray that it's not going to be this way. And again, he looked at the weather forecast for Indianapolis as opposed to what it looked like, say, Tuesday and Wednesday of this week to now. Things look like they're getting a little bit nicer and a little bit better when it comes to the chance of getting the Indy 500 started on time and maybe finished as well. But let's talk worst case scenario. Kyle Larson trying the double. We'll get into it when we come back.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments that we're getting on CRN Live on YouTube as well. And Keith, yeah, you're nailing it. Smokey Unick for Hall of Fame, right there with you. We talked about that, and Chicago Street Race. That's a joke. I got to admit, of all those events that we talked about, I might have given it to the Vegas F1 race.
That has my vote too.
I would have been more than happy to keep it within the racing world, but yeah, I think I would have gone F1 race in Vegas over Cup Series on Chicago streets. To IndyCar, as promised, if we presume that a worst case scenario happens, the Indy 500 gets delayed, the start of it interrupted in the middle of it, more cautions than anticipated, whatever. And Kyle Larson hits that deadline time and has to get out of the car, because he has said he will get out of the car and he will go to race and be at the Coca-Cola 600 because, well, that's where his bread comes in, literally. That's where his bread is buttered. But let's assume that that's to happen. What is Arrow McLaren Racing set to do? Well, of course, they've thought about it. They have to, because I can guarantee you Hendrick Motorsports has had to go through contingency plans as well in case things go sideways. Arrow McLaren has narrowed down the field to 2 drivers as to who might step in for Larson, who would then jet southeast to Charlotte and compete in the Coca-Cola 600. Arrow McLaren executives have said that it is between 2 drivers. One of those is the guy who just missed out on qualifying for the Indy 500 last week, 18-year-old Nolan Siegel. Just didn't have the car to qualify for this year's race. The other one works in the front office at Arrow McLaren and is a longtime IndyCar fan favorite, and that's Tony Kanaan. Ooh. Ultimately, now, if this scenario comes to fruition, IndyCar Series officials will have final say, because despite the fact that Kanaan actually has won an Indy 500 during his career and actually raced in this race last year, according to reports, series officials might, this would be the dumbest thing on the planet in IndyCar anyway, might require a refresher course for Tony Kanaan. What?
Yeah, that was already eliminated. He took himself out of contention. So it looks like if that
Might
happens,
be Siegel then.
It's Siegel.
Okay. There's one other scenario, however, and this is according to Larson's Cup Series team owner, Rick Hendrick, who is listed as the co-owner of the Arrow McLaren entry that Kyle Larson will be driving tomorrow. Rick Hendrick said this, quote, "We've talked about it many times. We know we need to be at Charlotte for the points, but we're just going to let it play out, and then Kyle and myself and Jeff Gordon will make that decision on Sunday." Rick Hendrick's leaving the door open for Kyle Larson to finish this thing out, even if they're past the deadline time.
They already have backup driver in place, prepared, and that would be one Justin Allgaier. So that tells me that it's already done. It tells me it's already done been discussed.
Mm-hmm.
If applied for, he will get said waiver for playoffs if he does not start the 600.
Yes.
Doesn't mean he can't come in and finish the 600, which that would be funny, watching a helicopter land in the infield, Kyle running out with his helmet on going to the car.
Yeah, exactly.
But
and you know he wouldn't be running because they'd have a golf cart sitting by there.
it would be, yeah. You're very correct. You are very correct. But at the same time, though, if they grant him a waiver, which it's all but said it is going to happen if it has to be applied for.
Yeah.
He gets said waiver. Pandora's box is back open again.
Yeah. You know it.
Oh, hey, I'm playing in this golf tournament. Can I have a waiver? I'm going to start the race late. And this it's gotten stupid. It's gotten stupid.
Something else that we dealt with, and I'm going to refer you to the Cross Flags podcast that's up on CRN Live on YouTube by now as well. Donald Trump is flying in. He'll be there for the Coca-Cola 600 tomorrow night. We've heard more than one person start to wonder whether or not Donald Trump flying in his 757 would interfere with Kyle Larson flying in on a private jet by Rick Hendrick. I'll just tell you now, no. Go to the Cross Flags podcast and you'll be able to figure out exactly why.
Yeah, you little YouTubers again.
Yeah. These are the same people that, by the way, saw the Car and Driver magazine with the designed by a 5-year-old Tesla Cybertruck on the cover, and noted on the inside of the back cover that there's a big Firebird symbol and the words Pontiac is back. Read that article real carefully.
Pontiac's coming back.
And look at the very bottom of the page where it says, disclaimer. Our lawyers think that we need to make sure that you understand that this is a joke. It's listed as the May-June issue. When did it hit? In the month of April.
Dun, 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 dun.
What does the month of April lead off with on April 1st? April Fool's Day. There's nothing on that page that says General Motors. There's nothing on that page that denotes who the advertiser is. And this is not the first time Car and Driver's played jokes like this before. I've been a long-time subscriber to Car and Driver. I know.
Correctamundo.
Would I love to see Pontiac back? Yes. Are they coming back? No. Chevrolet and Honda worked together to come up with the final energy recovery system that IndyCar will use in conjunction with the hybrid system they're going to be putting into use in race form at Mid-Ohio. IndyCar has already begun sending them out to the team so they can begin the installation process. And they need to do that because the final test of the entire system actually comes up at the Milwaukee Mile on June 11th. And then in July at Mid-Ohio, they'll put the hybrid system into race action. So, they're already being sent out to the teams.
I'm ready to see what it runs at Michigan.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that either.
But we touched on earlier talking about Chevrolet having so much speed in Indianapolis.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that because the top 8 qualifiers, remember, the top 8 qualifiers were all running Chevy engines.
Mm-hmm.
But
so
Carb Day was yesterday.
Carb Day was a little different story.
Which, are they going to change that, by the way, to fuel injection day?
Out of the top 15 competitors that turned time, which everybody turned time yesterday, out of the top 15, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Honda engines in race trim had the top 15.
This ought to be interesting.
10 of the top 15 were Honda.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Are you looking at you see the times?
This is IndyCar timing and scoring.
Look from 1 to 33, and I want to say there was a sheet that I saw that showed that the split between first and 33rd was like a second.
First, which was Scott Dixon, was a 39.61.
Okay.
Well, 39.6117. So let's call it 39.612.
Okay.
P33, which was Linus Lundqvist, was a 43.88.
43. Okay.
40.388.
40.3. It's close. It's close.
Yeah, Newgarden was a 43.86.
Yeah, not bad at all. With IndyCar back on the iRacing format, it was really only a matter of time before an IndyCar series or based series came about. Some special racing came about, and with the help of sim racing products maker Butt Kicker, you can't make this stuff up.
Steering wheel maker.
Yep, there's a new one now. It is entitled the IndyCar Butt Kicker iRacing Pro Series. Nailed it. It's also available to the top-ranked open-wheel sim racers. Competition will start September the 19th. It will feature most of the current tracks on the IndyCar schedule. Total prize pool of about $50,000. Each race will take place Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. It'll be shown live to those fans who are interested on IndyCar's YouTube channel and on IndyCar.com.
It's going to be interesting.
Entering?
I may take a shot at it.
Okay.
I may take a shot at it. My focus right now is for the special event they run next week for the IndyCar iRacing IndyCar 500.
Yeah.
Indy 500.
By the way, for those of you that do watch on CRN Live on YouTube, when we're in commercial break on our flagship station, we run a series of slides, and a lot of those are rides that Matt has in iRacing format, and there's at least one IndyCar.
I only have one IndyCar.
Is it the one? Okay.
Only one.
I thought there was. I knew there was one. I was thinking there might be more than one. To Formula One as we turn our attention over there, and good God, you thought it was so weird when it came to the whole Stewart Haas thing. How about the soap opera when it comes to Andretti Global? Good night. It keeps getting more interesting, though, because this latest move is just the latest checkmate move by Michael Andretti to Formula One. You know, you think about it, Formula One management basically said until General Motors / Cadillac has that engine right and ready to go, we're not going to let you in. What do you care if they come in and they fall flat on their face? What's it to you, Formula One? Would you rather them come in and start wiping the field? And have all 10 other teams start going, wait a minute, they just started. How are they beating the crap out of us? But, whatever. Michael Andretti continues to act as if it's a done deal that he's going to get that F1 team. His latest move, he pulled somebody away from the head offices of Formula One itself. He hired Pat Simons. If you're a longtime fan of Formula One, that's a name that should sound familiar to you. Simons was the chief technical officer at F1. Told series officials early this week he was going to be leaving the employ of them effective immediately, and just a few hours later it was announced that after he sits out a non-compete clause that ends on the last day of September, that he'll begin working for Andretti Global. So October 1st, he gets to walk into the Andretti Global shop that they have already opened in Silverstone, England, and has about 80 people employed there without an actual F1 team. Think about that. Michael Andretti said, quote, "We couldn't be more excited to welcome Pat to the Andretti family. Pat's keen understanding of aerodynamics, vehicle dynamics, Formula One power units. They're all going to be instrumental as we continue to build a competitive team." They don't even have one yet, and they're already building it. Michael added, Simons is, quote, "a renowned figure in the world of motorsport, revered for his exceptional technical experience. Worked for Formula One since 2017, where he helped shape the technical regulations to help improve the racing, helped create the new regulations for the cars in 2022 when major rules change took place. And he's also been instrumental in working up the changes that'll be implemented in the engine package that comes up in 2026. So the fact that he is now working for Andretti Global should tell you Michael Andretti is very serious about this.
I said this the other day. He is checkmating every move that F1's throwing at him.
And we're laughing.
Yes, sir.
I mean, we're just flat laughing about it. According to reports, Andretti and Formula One officials had a meeting in South Florida the week of the Miami Grand Prix. Neither side has said what, if anything, came out of the meeting, save for this. And here's where the soap opera aspect comes into it. Michael's father, of course, racing legend Mario Andretti, is still no shrinking violet, the 1978 champion of Formula One, in case you forgot, has taken to slamming the current leaders of the series. His latest comments claim that Liberty Media CEO Greg Maffei told him that he was going to do all that he could to keep Andretti Global from getting an F1 team, period. He talked to NBC News recently. The elder Andretti said he'd been talking to F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali while they were in Miami about being asked to go to Washington, D.C. to talk to Congress, and that had that letter that we detailed, 3 weeks ago, I guess it was on the show, about Liberty Media, that they sent it to Formula One. And Mario Andretti added to this, again, to NBC News, quote, "And just as I was trying to explain the whole situation about going to Washington, D.C. to Stefano, Greg Maffei, Mr. Maffei, broke into the conversation and said, quote, Mario, I want to tell you that I will do everything in my power to see that Michael never enters Formula One." I could not believe that. That one really floored me. We're talking about business. I didn't know it was something so personal. It was really, oh my goodness, I could not believe it. It was just like a bullet through my heart. Now, of course, Liberty Media is refuting Mario's recollection of the event. They tell Racer.com in a statement that it was actually Mario who approached Maffei to talk to him. Interesting to note, however, that the Liberty Media statement does not refute what Andretti said, that Maffei actually told him about blocking the Andretti efforts.
That's about all you can say to that is,
Yeah.
oh,
We have talked on this show and on Crossed Flags, the podcast, about this and how big a mistake this is for them not to allow Andretti Global in. It's huge because they believe, we've got plenty of this and, everything is good and we don't want to cut the pie up anymore, because they don't think that bringing in an American team, an American-owned team with a likely American-born driver, maybe two, would actually expand out the fan base here in the United States of America. And if you expand out the fan base in the largest sports market on the planet, what do you think that's going to do to the overall revenue? You're short-sighted, period. That's it.
very.
On to other stuff. Red Bull. I know, we're all shocked out to the big lead in the driver and the Constructors' Cup standings that we detailed at the beginning of the show, but they say they're feeling pressure from McLaren and Ferrari, so they're going to try something different for this weekend in Monaco. They're going to try a new, one race only, high downforce rear wing. For a whole lot of teams, doing something one race specific would be very cost prohibitive, but Red Bull is apparently feeling the heat so much that they're going to bite that financial bullet and see if it works. I'm not actively rooting for Red Bull to fall flat on their face, but I will say this. If this failed, I probably would chuckle a bit. Why are you screwing with something that works?
Well, go ahead and wind up your chuckle box.
Why are you screwing up something that works?
Go ahead and take that key and wind your chuckle box up.
Bring it. What do you got?
Q2 is about to end.
Oh, that's right, too. Qualifying.
One Red Bull is already out. Yeah. One went out. One went out in Q1.
Is it Max?
No,
Oh, okay.
not Max.
I was just checking.
But with 125 left, Max is only sitting P5.
How many times on this show have we said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it?
$1.5 billion.
Just throwing it out there, Red Bull.
Yeah, $1.5 billion.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Trying stuff is one thing, but maybe you should have done a little more testing, at least in simulator action, before you went and put this into effect.
Yep.
I get it. Monaco's different from every other race on the planet.
Yep.
But what on God's green earth made you think that this was a good idea when you have been blistering the field for really 3 years now?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the beginning of 2023, you've won everything on the planet except for, I think, 3 races? 4 races?
Something like that.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You came up with a solution to a problem that did not exist beforehand. Congratulations, Red Bull.
You CC NASCAR on that?
Yeah. NASCAR is constantly copied on that. All right, let's go ahead and take a break here, John, and talk silly season rumors. And again, these are rumors. Dominoes have already fallen. Sir Lewis Hamilton, we know about. He's going to Ferrari. That's displacing Carlos Sainz. We know that, right? Now we get all the talk in and around the garage of who's interested in doing what and going where. Because once Carlos Sainz figures out where he's going, everything else starts to fall into place. But here's the thing. The Sauber-Audi situation is also a wild card. We'll delve into all of that next here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
I know we keep referencing crossed flags, but hey, it's because, well, number one, we're trying to give it publicity, and that's just the way that we are. And number two, there is some crossover between the two. We talked about this Thursday because it broke just before we actually did the recording of the podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, do so, because we'll get a little bit more involved into it there too. Williams surprised some by expressing their interest in signing the biggest free agent to be in Carlos Sainz. Now, we noted here on the show he is being replaced by Sir Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari next year and has yet to sign in any place for 2025. Well, in doing some studying on some of the rumors that are coming out around the F1 paddock garage area, if you want to use NASCAR terms, Red Bull reportedly has talked about him. I read that as we haven't actually talked to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Red Bull reportedly has talked about Carlos Sainz. Sauber, soon to be Audi, could turn over both drivers for 2025. We already know that one of them is going to be turned over because they have signed Nico Hülkenberg to begin driving for them next year. Now maybe Sainz too. That'd be a nice double header. Carlos Sainz, Nico Hülkenberg.
Wouldn't be bad.
No disrespect to what Sauber has had in the past, but I would argue that that might be their best driver lineup in a very long time, if not ever.
Probably so.
Now reports have come down that Williams, looking to get back to winning races and maybe championships sooner rather than later, have already, as we talked about last week on the show, signed up their most successful driver in several years, Alex Albon, to a deal that goes through 2027. And they're likely looking to upgrade on Logan Sargent, who, well, let's just be real honest, he hasn't lived up to the promise that he showed when he was in the F1 feeder series. Reports out of Europe state Sainz is willing to talk to literally any team that calls him. And I don't blame him.
I don't either.
Because once you're at the top level, you want to stay there. So, yeah, if the dregs of the F1 universe wanted to call me, and right now that's Alpine, I'd take the call because I still want to be in Formula One because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
He said also, the report is that he is awaiting Red Bull's ultimate decision before he makes up his own mind, because if you could go to Red Bull, considering their track record over the last couple of years, you go there.
I think I would too.
Sure. Should Sainz prove to be out of reach for Williams, depending on some of the other moves, Valtteri Bottas might be out at Sauber/Audi. Could be Zhou Guanyu, we don't know. Sauber Audi has not said if they're keeping either one, truth be told, at this time. So both of them might be out of a job, and you and I have talked about that. And I'm not necessarily looking at Zhou Guanyu, no disrespect to him, but if I am, say, Haas F1 and suddenly the veteran presence of Valtteri Bottas becomes available, I might want to consider signing him. Because this is a guy who has worked hand in hand with Lewis Hamilton over at Mercedes. He knows how a championship-winning organization works.
Right.
He knows what a championship-winning car takes.
Right.
And if I'm Haas F1, what am I missing?
Both.
Wins.
Both.
Certainly titles. Then there's Yuki Tsunoda. He's one of those few people that actually wants out of the Red Bull program because he seems unlikely to get the call to move from VCARB up to Red Bull itself. Okay, I can kind of understand that.
Understandable.
If you feel like you're not going to get the call up to the big team, maybe you go someplace else and say, look at what you missed out on.
Exactly.
That being said, I'm not so certain Yuki Tsunoda is that high up on my list either.
Exactly.
Sorry to say that, dude. There's Alpine's Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon reportedly not happy with the underperforming team that is Alpine, who have scored 0 points on the year so far. So, yeah, I can understand that as well. So, I don't know. Time will tell. Again, there's a lot of moving pieces here. And we'll also add this. Esteban Ocon is somebody that's kind of new to this whole rumor mill.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very possible that he might be overwhelmed with a contract offer to stay. I don't know. Again, I don't have my finger on the pulse of Formula One. I'm just saying, if I'm Alpine, judging on what I saw last year out of my two drivers, Esteban Ocon being one of them, I'd kind of want to keep them around because this year just looks to be an aberration. They screwed up on the car. And everything at the front office changed so much, and they weren't able to keep up with all the changes that everybody else has made. They got left behind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not blaming the drivers in this case. I probably want to keep Esteban Ocon along with Pierre Gasly.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that. I mean, they're solid. Gasly's a race winner. Ocon's been flirting with it.
Yeah. Last
So,
year, not this year, but last year he was.
I mean, yeah.
To me, if I'm at the head of Alpine, I'm not blaming them. Truth be told, I need to look at myself in the mirror and go, all the changes that we made in the middle of last year,
Reverse them.
and kind of screwed up the whole balance of the team.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go hire a team principal because I believe that I can handle not only being the big-time boss, but I can also handle being the team principal.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're now starting to see the shortcomings of that.
Bingo.
Alpine's got stuff that they need to figure out at the front office, not the driver's situation. Lock him down.
Mm-hmm.
As for Haas F1, should rumblings out of Europe be trusted any more than garage rumors here in the U.S. can, they're looking at all their options with Nico Hülkenberg definitively gone, and Kevin Magnussen seems... I like Kevin, but he's certainly been underperforming this year, last year. He's gotten outperformed by Nico Hülkenberg just about every chance, qualifying and in race trim. How are they doing, by the way, in the qualifying?
We have, if the stream would stay up.
Yeah.
Here we go. Less than 9 minutes to go in Q3.
Okay.
Not everybody's taking time yet.
All right. Well, how are the Haas twins doing? Let's just look at
Haas twins are not in Q3. They got knocked out in Q2.
Ouch. Was Nico Hülkenberg faster than Kevin Magnussen?
He was.
There you go. That's been pretty consistent since last year when Nico Hülkenberg came on board. So there might be, with Gene Haas and new team principal Io Komatsu, easy for me to say, where might they be looking? Well, according to reports, again, take them with a grain of salt, Sonoda's already talked to Haas F1 reportedly. Ocon is on a wish list for Komatsu at least, along with the likelihood that they're going to sign Ferrari development driver Oliver Behrman, who impressed earlier this year when he filled in for Sainz when he had appendicitis earlier this year at Ferrari. If I'm Haas F1, yeah, I'm looking to upgrade. Because if Gene Haas is literally this serious about making sure that this team doesn't come in and get their butts handed to them by Andretti Global, which should already be a team, we've already dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're insistent upon still hanging around as the MoneyGram Haas F1 team long-term, Gene Haas, I'd say you probably need to do some things that actually gives you a reason to stick around.
Correct.
Because otherwise, you're just playing. You're spending a whole heck of a lot of money for a couple of cars to be out there, and what do you got to show for it?
Absolutely nothing.
You got a 5th place points finish in 2018 and really nothing else.
Yep.
So now's the time. There's all kinds of different phrases that could be said here. Most of them can't go on the air. I'll put this one out there. It's time to fish or cut bait. Are you serious? And if you are, go out there. By all means, sign this promising kid, Oliver Behrman. But pair him with somebody who can, 1, be a mentor, but 2, actually knows how to find a way to make your cars better.
Bingo.
FIA officials have been desiring a way to cut down on the rooster tails and the water spray from lead cars when Formula One runs in the rain. They've been testing several possible options over the last couple of years. Ferrari recently performed a test at the Fiorano track using a new system that covered the top 2/3 of each tire and had spokes on the outside of the wheel tire combination. We got a picture of it up there on CRN Live on YouTube right now, thanks to F1. I got to admit, that's a homely looking option right there. It's not pretty.
No.
That's
leave it off.
not
leave
pretty
it off
at all.
Car, leave it off the car. Leave it off the car.
I'll say this. The spokes were to serve two purposes. Number one, deflect more water off to the side. But number two, it also holds the wheel cover together so it wouldn't fly up and become ineffective. But it turns out that any benefit off of that was negligible at best. So the FIA decided to drop the idea of wheel and tire covers entirely, and they'll look into other options. So
Thank you.
that's out.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly. I gotta
Yeah,
admit.
well, that ugly's an understatement.
We haven't talked about Michael Schumacher for a little while, and there's a reason why. I mean, the family's been actually quite silent when it comes to keeping us updated on Michael Schumacher's recovery since the skiing accident that happened in late 2013. But what we do know is this. A court in Germany has awarded the Schumacher family 200,000 euros, about 217,000 American dollars, after they found out that a German magazine's AI-generated interview that they claim was an exclusive with the seven-time champ Michael Schumacher was indeed AI and fake. The article with the purported interview ran in an issue in April of 2023. Featured it on the cover as well. They promised an exclusive. But Schumacher, again, has not been seen in public, has not done any interviews, all since that fated skiing accident of 2013 that caused that serious brain injury. The magazine did admit that the interview was AI generated at the end of the article. Prompted the now very private Schumacher family to file the suit. The money will be paid by the Funke, Funke, media group, the owners of the magazine named Die Aktuelle. Sure, whatever. It's German. I don't care. They also issued a formal apology to the family and, this is the least they could have done, terminated the editor-in-chief who greenlit the AI-generated article and published it.
Oh, boy.
Why on the name of God's green earth would you have greenlit that article?
Knowing that it wasn't real.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no kidding.
The noted F1 Arcade, which opened up their first location of some 30 planned about the world back in April up in the Boston Seaport, has named two more locations for what they're now hoping will become a destination name here in the U.S. They got a place in Washington, D.C. that they're getting ready to open up, and now they have unveiled the plans for a location in Las Vegas inside Caesar's Palace. Okay.
They need to bring it here.
Yeah. The Boston location is a hub where racing fans can go eat, drink, and be merry. It includes an immersive racing experience as well. If you're on CRN Live on YouTube, you can see that. I mean, look at that right there. You get a big wraparound screen that you, the driver, can look at, and up top, people can stand behind you and see what you're doing. As far as the Caesars location in Vegas is planned, those behind the attraction promise the Vegas location is going to be about 21,000 square feet in total. It'll overlook the Vegas Strip and be their largest F1 arcade yet.
Boys, it's time for a road trip.
I like your thinking.
It's time for a road trip.
I like your thinking. Brett Moffitt's set to jump into the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota when the Xfinity Series heads to Iowa Speedway. Marks a return to the organization for the 31-year-old driver. In case you didn't know, Moffitt drove for Joe Gibbs Racing when he was in ARCA East competition way back in 2010. He gets to reunite with them at his home track. He's a native of Grimes, Iowa. He's had plenty of success at that Midwestern short track. Speaking of the number 19 car, Josh Bilicki going to be part of the rotation of drivers for the number 19 star car. He signed a multi-race deal to get into what will be the best equipment he's ever had at this level of NASCAR. Bilicki's first time in the car is going to be at Portland International Raceway next month. The rest of the schedule to be announced. Hey, you remember when Kyle Busch said that he wasn't going to race Xfinity Series races anymore?
Yep.
He lied. 102 wins, said that once he hit 100 in the Xfinity Series competition and filled out his commitment that year, he was going to stop his racing in the series, and he held to it until Richard Childress asked him to climb into the third RCR Xfinity car with the number 33 to team with Austin Hill and Jesse Love. He'll be sponsored by Rebel Bourbon and BetMGM. Okay. Mike Harmon Racing made two announcements here recently. The first is Jade Buford's been signed to drive his number 74 Chevrolet Camaro on a part-time basis, including this weekend at Charlotte. The 36-year-old Texas native has 45 Xfinity Series starts over the past 3 years with three other teams, 3 top 10 finishes in that time. for this weekend at Charlotte. It'll be sponsored by Frog Alley Brewing out of Schenectady, New York. They started in 2018. Frog Alley's hoping, I guess, this will become a name that beer lovers around the country will get to know. I don't know.
Maybe so.
The Xfinity Series Dash for Cash series of races is come and gone. Now it's the turn of the Truck Series. It began last night in Charlotte, had race number 1 of the Triple Truck Challenge. Top finishing driver running for points in the series, walking away with the extra $50,000.
Nick Sanchez.
Thank you. Should Nick Sanchez win one of the next 2 races, that bonus becomes $150,000. Should Nick Sanchez win all 3, $500,000. Not bad.
Go for it.
Lots been made of the miles that Kyle Larson has traveled over the past couple of weeks and will tomorrow between Indiana and North Carolina. Still not done. Del Worsham said, hey, hold my beer. He was in Chicago working on tuning the funny car of Alexis DeJoria Friday a week ago, led to her 5th place qualifying result. Right after that, jumped on a plane, headed to Southern California, where he attended his daughter's college graduation, Kate. Afterwards, celebrated with her for a short time, jumped back on the plane, headed back to Chicago, where he was back in control of DeJoria's funny car efforts on Sunday. Good job. And FIA Top Fuel champion Ida Zetterstrom has set to make her NHRA debut later this year when she joins JCM Racing to run at Brainerd International Raceway in mid-August. She's a Swedish-born racer. Look at the picture on CRN Live on YouTube. Yep, nailed it. Moved to the U.S. to be near JCM's Indiana headquarters, working on sponsorship and more, and hoping to become full-time maybe as soon as next year.
Go for it.
Knock yourself out. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing. We'll talk to you next week.
Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450.